Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the EAHC podcast. This is episode number 7. Got it right this week. Did check beforehand. Once again, unfortunately, Jack can't join me. Our work schedule's just not working out very well. Luckily, I'm joined by, I don't even think he's a guest host at this point. He's a semi-permanent member of the team. It's Dan.
Hello.
Mate. How you doing?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Thank you for having me back.
No, thank you for joining me again at short notice, saving the pod again for another week.
No.
Unfortunately, as it is last minute because of my work schedule and me and Jack not actually being able to discuss the topic that we were going to discuss this week, we're just going to do the Q&A bit. It seems to be what everyone likes. We've got a decent amount of posts to go through, so it's probably not going to be as long an episode, maybe 45 minutes to an hour, but hopefully next week when me and Jack get back together, we can discuss the topic we were going to discuss this week and then again go through some of your questions. We are going to change the format of the questions just because A, it's something we like doing, and B, it does it helps interaction with you guys. But what we'd like you to do is actually leave your questions for the next episode in the comments section, and then we're not going to do every single question every single episode. We're going to pick a few that we think are actually meaty, so there's enough content there for us to actually have a decent discussion about them rather than just firing through them and then it just to try and keep the engagement up but also give you guys quality content rather than just me and whoever or Jack and whoever just waffling on for 2+ hours sometimes. So first question this week, having said that and saying quality over content and blah blah blah, is something that I have to thank Mr. James Wilson for, as it was his idea last week. At least it's all women this week, I suppose. It's a shag, marry, kill again. So we've got Tariel, Galadriel, and Arwen. That's what was left by former channel friend James Richardson.
All the elven ladies.
All the elven ladies. Now, normally, having seen a few of these on YouTube, Shag, Marry, Kill is purely based on physical appearance, looks, aesthetically pleasing looks. So, bearing in mind that Galadriel can go batshit crazy, we're not bearing that in mind because it's irrelevant. It's purely based on physical attractiveness. Dan, we've discussed this in the group chat. What was your stance on it?
I'd definitely go with marry Arwen, shag Tariel, and kill Galadriel. I mean, they're all well out of my league.
I mean, it's completely hypothetical, of course.
Completely hypothetical. But that's my take on it. I just think, I mean, Tariel's got a thing for shorter guys, and I just don't think it'd work out.
Right.
As you say, Galadriel, she's got an edge to her.
She's got some issues.
She's got some issues. Where Arwen seems quite nice. No negatives that I can think of.
Before I answer, I am going to preface: if someone is listening to this podcast for the first time, this is not the first thing we usually start with.
No, not at all. No,
it's just because it's literally the first question, and we're doing a Q&A. So, for me, I think my answer in the group was I'd just shag them all, but that's not really how it works. So, if I had to shag one, it'd be Arwen. I'd probably marry Tariel, and then I'd have to kill Galadriel as well. But it is what it is. Let us know in your comments below what your order would be. And if we can, guys, don't do that every week. Do it every now and then, bit of fun, but every week it will get a bit silly. Right, so CJ's actually introduced something that's potentially quite fun, and it also promotes a bit more interaction in the comment section. So it's CJ's hobby quiz. We're going to do this weekly. He hasn't actually told me the answer, so I won't find out until he tells me the answer, hopefully in time for next week. So, which non-monster profile, because I answered with a monster and he said it's non-monster, Josh. I was like, oh yeah. Which non-monster profile has the highest defense in the game without any armor or shields? So their base profile without armor or shield.
Armor or shield.
Now, my guess was a dwarf. Apparently it was wrong. I'm not going to give away what my guess was because that's kind of the whole point. You guys type below what your guess is. Dan, thoughts?
Can I guess? I don't know. Yeah, I'll
Hey,
give it a go.
you can have a guess, mate. If it's,
Yeah.
I don't know the answer, so
I don't know. I'm trying to think because I don't know what my original thought was Eristor, but then he's got heavy armor.
yeah,
So,
I answered Bayon. Apparently, that was wrong.
oh yeah. I think as a man he's defense 5.
Yeah,
So
I thought that was pretty high for just
yeah.
considering he's wearing his ripped abs and pectoral muscles. That is,
It is pretty high. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
is it? I've got a funny feeling it'll be a spirit, something like a. I don't think a shade has any armor.
Is a shade defense? It's quite high though, isn't it? Is it defense 8 or 7?
Yeah, I think it's around 7 or 8. I think it's 8.
Oh, well, it might be that. And if it is that, I'm sorry for ruining it, but we're
So,
participating as well.
so yeah, I mean, I've not seen the answer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that'd be my guess, but
Don't look in the books either. Just literally the
no,
first thing you think of, just guess it and go with it.
yeah.
Right. Dan's answered the shade. I answered Bayon. I know I'm wrong, but that was my original answer. So Ryan has asked, thanks for answering. Oh, no, wait. Thanks for the answers last time, guys. Really enjoyed the podcast. I've got another one for this week. How does... Oh, yeah, I read this and I should have grabbed the book. How does fighting up and down ladders on high ledges, and if a unit has no way to access another higher up, how can it kill the other model work?
Right. I think I know what he means.
Especially in the situation where one unit might have deployed in the building on an objective, but the other force has no magic or bows, how can they ever get it off the objective? He has got another question, but we'll do that one first.
Right. I think so. I think if you're fighting on stairs or on a ledge,
Yep.
it's like being behind a barrier.
Yeah, so there's an in the way roll to strike.
Yeah. So there's an in the way roll, but also you automatically, from memory, you take their place.
Yeah, if you win the fight,
Yeah.
and then
kill.
you take their spot on the wall, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm fairly certain. I mean, comment again if I'm wrong, but I'm fairly certain it's the same. I think it's one of these that hasn't changed throughout the history of the game. So I'm fairly certain.
Yes, the siege rules are kind of, I'm not going to say copy and paste because it's not that lazy, but they're kind of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So
Yeah.
I think that's right. And regarding if the unit's deployed on an objective, but you can't shoot into the objective, because I think this has come up at a tournament before. I think you have to fight at the doorway of the rampart, and then you kill a model, and then they can move another model in, and then you have to just basically keep killing them until you killed them all, and then you would go in the rampart. I think that's how that works.
Right.
Again, not played a lot of siege games to have a definitive answer on that, but I would suggest that just check the rules. The siege rules are pretty solid. If you check them and you're really not sure, perhaps word it not all in one big question, and it'll be a bit easier for me to break it down and know what you're on about a little bit better.
I don't think when he's saying deploying on an objective, I can't think of many scenarios where
It says, especially in the situation where one unit might have deployed in a building on an objective, but the other force has no magic or bows, how can they ever get it off the objective?
I mean, I don't know many situations where you actually deploy on an objective.
I guess it depends on the terrain.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a building, it'll be a ruined building. So again, I think you'd.
Also, if there's no way of them, this is probably a tournament scenario. Most TOs will say if there's no way to actually get on the building, that you can't deploy there anyway.
Yeah.
I mean,
so it might climb.
I mean, yeah, you could climb, but again, if it's not normally, like, you'll ask your opponent, are we okay to climb this? And then you'll have an agreement between yourselves, yes or no. So if there's no way to climb up there, like there's no ladder or no visible, like, clear route where you could feasibly climb up there, most people will just say, well, no.
Yeah. I think it's something you probably have to discuss with your opponent beforehand to just be fair to both players, because there's no point. I mean, again, as you say, go and speak to a TO if you think it's being unfairly dealt with, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if you're at an event, your opponent's like, I'm deploying there regardless, they're probably just being a bit of a tosser, and just call your TO over, say, listen, I'm not happy with this. Can you give us a judging? Most TOs are pretty somewhat, common sense will say, well, no, you can't do that. Stop being a tosser, basically.
Yeah.
So, again, if it's an EAHC event, that should never, ever, ever be an issue. We're all pretty laid back and chilled out, and you just, can I do this? No. Is that half movement through difficult terrain? Yeah. Is that a forest? Yeah. Shallow water for a river? Yeah. Just agree it all beforehand. If that situation does ever arise, I mean, if there's no way to climb up there and you've got no other way of dealing with it, something's gone wrong somewhere in deployment, basically. So, unfortunately, yeah. So, second part. Do you guys have any advice for playing in terrain? Any nice tricks you regularly? Sorry, sorry, guys. Any nice tricks that you use regularly that can really impact a game? So I read this question before, and the only example I can think of that used to catch people out, it might not anymore, is that certain characters in the Gondor list had the Woodland Creature special rule. I used to play Gondor a lot more than I do now. And I thought of a tournament once, and I was chasing it was Seize the Prize, and I was chasing the model with the prize. He ran into a forest thinking that because we were both going to suffer from half movement, but obviously he would get out first, he could get off the board. And I went, well, Faramir has Woodland Creature, so I moved full, charged him, killed him, and then I had the prize. That's the only one I can think of. So it's models that generally people will know a stat line of whatever it is that they're fighting, and if they don't, they'll probably ask. What they won't know is if they've got like Woodland Creature or the Moria Goblin one. I forget what it's called. Is it Cave Dweller?
Yeah.
And there's another one, isn't there? Woodland Creature.
It's their Mountain Dweller that several of the dwarves have. So I think over rocky terrain, they move.
Yeah. And then obviously, the other amazing example is Shelob. She's like, terrain, that's nice. I'll just go full movement everywhere.
I remember being caught on the hop by you once, Josh, when we played. You had you sent spiders around the side of my army, so I thought I had it blocked off.
Yeah.
And your spiders ran up the wall and round.
Oh, okay.
Charged into the back of my army, and I really wasn't. I managed to call a very desperate, heroic combat, I think, with Gloin to sort it.
Right.
But, I remember that took me definitely by surprise, and that was a bit lucky, I think.
Oh, well, I'm never going to turn down the opportunity to say I've done something tactically sound, but yeah, so anything like that, so the spiders, Shelob, is it the what? It's not Mirkwood, and what's the Lothlorien elves called now?
The Galadrim?
That's the one. Are their horses still have?
Yeah, they've got. I was going to come on to it. Fleetfoot Steed or Fleet.
Yeah,
and that's fantastic. Still, I've thought I was safe against a Wood Elf army, and then they were on the other side of woodland terrain.
Yeah,
and I had some archers just looking at them, sizing them up, ready for
full move through the woods and chop you down.
Yeah, straight into me, chop me down.
So yeah, there's a few cool units that have obviously anything that with flies is awesome, but you can't fly into terrain specifically. So anything with Woodland Creature. Oh, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, is there a list of terrains they can land in now? I don't know if that's a thing.
Again, my book is downstairs. So
I might have a quick look, but but again, I think it's good to just have a lot of diverse terrain, and then just like there's lots of different little bits. I mean, the new Army of the Dead rule for water features is very limited, but again, if you come up again, if you have a river,
Yeah.
like that'll be great. Just saunter over.
Yep.
So I might forget it, but I mean, terrain. Yeah, just having a good diverse terrain's great in any game, really. And it's just, I wouldn't say there's many tricks that your opponents don't tend to know, but now and again you'll get caught on the hop by an obscure one. I would
Yeah.
say.
Right. Yeah. Right. Just sorry to cut down off completely there. If
Yeah.
you let us know what army you're collecting, because I don't know if I've played you before. I'm sure we've met, but if you let us know what armies specifically you're collecting, maybe we can answer that question a little bit better. But anything with woodland creature, mountain dweller, cave dweller, shelob, giant spiders, Lothlorien cav. Do Rivendell Knights have that rule?
No,
They
they don't. They don't.
obviously the elves have woodland creature, but their horses don't, right?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's yeah. It's one of the bonuses of Galadriel cavalry, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So Sam Huddy has asked. He's stealing Jack's question from last week and flipping it round. What is your favourite army to face, and what is the most difficult army to play with? So obviously this is completely opinionated. We could be very wrong. Everyone's going to have their own. Again, it depends if this is in a tournament or if it's a friendly game or what. But we'll assume it's either an event or a tournament. What do you think, Dan? Your favorite army to face, and what is the most difficult army to play with?
Favorite army to face.
I mean,
It's
it
not.
depends what I'm using, to be honest. But
Yeah, I think it's very army sort of situation. I mean, if you collect a few armies, then you're always going to have one army that probably you favour playing.
mm,
Um, just trying to think there. I think difficult to use is probably slightly easier
yeah, go on.
because I think there's a few armies that are can be quite fiddly. So things that rely a lot on charging, like all mounted Rohan,
Yep.
even Eagles. I mean, they're high defense, but to get the
Yeah,
most out of them,
they're a bit more forgiving than a rider of Rohan, but yeah,
they are. But then you can skirmish more with Rohan.
that's very true. Yep.
So they're armies that sort of take there's quite a high learning curve,
Mm,
let's say, with them, which can make them fiddly.
mm,
But the payoff with it is great if you do get it right,
yeah.
and you can wipe off a large amount of casualties in one turn if you get all the time the stars align.
Yeah, definitely.
But I don't know. I don't really have a favourite army to face. There's lots that are really. You know what? I quite like Isengard because they're just very good at
Yeah,
everything they do. Like
yeah,
whenever you see a solid Isengard list, you're going to go, "Oh, that's a that's a tough nut to crack." And then you always know you're in for a competitive game. They always do what they say on the tin.
I always say to newer players who are maybe getting into the hobby, "What's your favourite film?" If they say Two Towers, and I say, "Well, collect Isengard." They're jack of all trades. They're very good at everything. They do struggle currently with having a midpoint hero. Lurtz is very good at that now, but I still think they struggle where Lurtz only does so much, and then you've got Saruman who is good, but you need to be playing a high enough points. They really don't have a 120 to 140 point choppy hero.
Um, I mean, they've got Thryden as well. I mean, they've got quite a few good. I don't know. Well, it depends what you count as mid-level because I think they're probably sort of there's quite a few around.
You've
80
obviously got Ugluk, Vrasku, Mahur, Lurtz,
Thryden for me.
Thryden.
Yeah, and they're all very good. I'd say they're midpoint, but lower end of midpoint.
Yeah, I suppose I mean upper middle.
Upper middle, yeah, something
Upper
around.
middle.
Yeah, something
But
around
I think, as you say,
120.
they're they're a very good army. You can put a solid fight 4, strength 4, defense 6 line and go, right, I want to do this. And they're pretty good at doing it. And they've obviously got wargs for complete tangent, but they've got warg riders for mobility. You've got crossbows for effective shooting. You've got trolls. You've got access to cheaper orcs.
We had sorry, because I played Jax today, and he
Right.
Uruk drummer,
Oh, nice, yeah.
and they're brilliant for mobility. I mean, you combine that with a march, and you've got 18 how many inches? I can't remember how many inches it was, but it's huge.
It's basically double, isn't it? You move 12 or something.
Yeah, and it was massive, and I thought,
is it 15? I can't remember.
It might be.
It's around 12,
with
scouts?
12 No, they were just regular Isengard with the drummer, and it just made such a big difference to his mobility for bog standard Isengard troops.
I know Kieran did something similar at my escalation event where he had the orc drummer, and then he had 3 turns of marching at recon, and in turn 3 he was literally off the board. It was mad.
Well, that's. I mean, even their shooting. You've got crossbows with Rascue are terrible to. I mean, if you've got not a lot of cover,
yeah,
and they're given sort of free reign. I played Johnny, who's a very good Isengard player.
Yeah,
and shot into combat against my Swan Knights and with Imrahil.
mm-hmm.
And he killed half of them and killed the horses of the other half. So
nice.
I wasn't best pleased at the time, but they're always a great army to face, Isengard. I think they're always a good test.
And their models are actually, considering they're quite old now, they're very film accurate.
Yeah, the aesthetic's spot on. Like,
that's the word.
All the berserkers just look great. I mean, I know they've been nerfed slightly, and Ferocus, ferals have rightly.
Yeah,
but they do still pack a punch and do the job.
They still look great on the table as well.
Yeah.
So. I mean, that's not answered Sam's question in any way, shape, or form. My favourite army to face, assuming I'm playing, depends what I'm using, but normally it's Mordor, and it's normally the Legion, Gothmog's Legion, or the Blackgate. The Blackgate anything. I've never lost with it, which is a bold thing to say, but I haven't. Gothmog's Legion, any man army, because it's just fun. And most difficult army to play with. See, for me currently, I guess something like the Fellowship. It's pretty awful.
Maybe all hero.
It depends on the scenarios. If it's random scenario and you get bad draw, yeah, all hero, because you can kill stuff all day long, but you're not going to get the objectives necessarily. Obviously, some very good players can use an all-hero army and win everything, but I'm not that good, so I'm only human.
After all,
yeah. Sam, second question. Which EAHC pairing will rank higher this weekend? Tom Walker and James Wilson, or Sam Huddy and William Pointer? Now, it takes for the fact that Will and James are both very good players, in my opinion. I've played them both several times, and it's probably like a 50-50 mix in results. And then you take it to the fact that Sam and Tom have some of the worst dice luck I've ever seen. Ever. It's what they should have done is put Sam and Tom together. That would have been hilarious. I don't know what armies they're using. Again, guys, you're half asking questions. I don't know what you're using. Is this at the Warhammer? I think it's at the Warhammer World Doubles event, isn't it?
Is it? I genuinely don't know what's going on this weekend.
I'm gonna take a punt and say Hawker and Wilson. That's my punt.
Yeah.
Again, good luck to all of you. Anyone going? Good luck to the EAHC guys. If you're going and you don't do very well, then I'm going to disown you. Sorry.
I'm gonna back Sam. I'm gonna back Huddy.
I'm going to back Huddy. The worst dice luck I've ever seen. All right, fair enough.
I mean,
to be fair,
as a fellow sufferer of dice blips,
If Will just rolls all the dice,
yeah,
that might be all right.
I think Sam's luck's got a turn, and he
He's a
was on
good player, but it's
he was
just
on the
his
pod.
dice luck.
He was on the pod last week, so solidarity with Sam. Don't let me down, Sam.
There we go. We've got one each. Let us
Fun
know how
fact.
you all get on. Obviously, have fun. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Kieran has asked, Shade still OP?
No.
Now, I went to Kieran's. Well, I didn't go to it. I was working in the morning. I managed to go to the tournament hosted by Aaron Wilson last weekend, which Kieran won. So congratulations, Kieran. His Angmar army at 800 points was a little bit disgusting. He had the Witch King. I think it was 3-14-2 with the crown and the horse and the blade. He had a shade. He had one Barrow White, Gullivar, 4 Wild Wargs, a couple of orcs with two-handed weapons after my recommendation, and then just chaff basically. And he played 2 games with his evil and won both. Oh, he won all 3 games, but I think he played 2 with his evil and 1 with his good. And the game I saw with the shade, I wouldn't say it was OP, but it does what it does. But now you have to pay a will point for it. So I think they are very good, and they are. Now I was considering using an Angmar army, and my hesitation to do so was the prevalence of the army of the dead locally at the moment. And then I realised, well, if you have a shade, they can only ever roll a 5. So as long as I roll 6s,
Yeah.
it's fine. But then you are reliant on rolling a 6 in every single fight. Are they OP? No. Are they very good? Situationally, yes. If you get broken, they're courage 1. So if you spent all your will doing, I forget the special rule, but you know what I'm on about. You spend the will point to do their rule, and then you fail your courage test. You spent 100 points on. It could go very badly very quickly. But they are very good.
I'd say, well, considering that, they can still be very good and not OP. I mean, OP for me was the last edition at Ardacon. I played a list with Corsair Reavers, which were fight 5 still.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And
Axes?
Yes, with axes.
Yeah, that was the broken combo, weren't it?
And what else did they have? There was still Watcher of Karna. Still, so it was a mixture of the two.
With the Shadow Lord?
Shadow Lord and Shade.
And Morannin's behind with the Shadow Lord normally.
Yeah, that was the one.
It was the combo, mate. It was disgusting.
That was the combo, and it was that was broken. That was horrific.
Yeah, because you've got elves with 2 attacks with no downside.
Yeah.
With a strength 4 spear support. Yeah. With a bubble of, haha, you rolled a 6, it's a 5. I've rolled a 6, I win.
Yeah.
And you can't shoot them because of the Pale of Darkness. It was horrendous.
Yeah, there was nothing you could really do. All I could do against that was I was blasting the front rank so they were prone.
Yeah.
But all that ended up doing was making it slower for me to die.
Mm.
There was nothing else to be done against that army. It was absolutely horrible.
Yeah, I remember I played James Long, who had a very similar, so Watchers, Reavers with stuff, and then Morannon's the Shadow Lord. He had the Golden King, and I was playing Goblin Town. And it purely because neither of us wanted to engage, it literally came down to a heroic combat in the last turn, and he threw the Shadow Lord off. But yeah, it was such a grim arc because you just don't want to go anywhere near a fight 5-3 attack line. It's horrid. I mean, obviously, Reavers now aren't anywhere near as good. I still think they're very good, but their special rule. I was having a discussion with someone about this the other day. I think it was you actually, Dan, and I think their special rule in certain situations actually makes them better, but at the same time, sometimes it doesn't. So,
it's still it's a risk now, at least.
Yeah, I mean, they're not auto. Obviously, the alliance matrix has helped because a lot of people, when you could just mash up your army and take whatever you want, you just splatter a few in, or have a front line of fight 5 to attack with axes. It's horrendous.
Yeah.
Tom Ramsden has asked, excuse me, what armies do you enjoy playing the most and why? And also, what's more important for you when building an army? Fun, theme, or strength, effectiveness, or a combination of the three? And then he's got a follow-up question, which is, we'll answer the follow-up question first because it's a very quick for me. Yes. Also, thoughts on the Morgul Blade? Is it worth the 10 points? Yes, for me.
Yes, for me as well.
It's great if you can, especially because I know Tom likes to have a couple of casters. So if you can Black Dart fate points away, and then you go in with the Witch King and go, haha, I win. For 10 points, it's definitely worth it. And if you come up against anything like a Mumak or,
Smaug.
Smaug or a Troll, anything where that one wound that you're trying to get will effectively kill them outright. So yeah, it's definitely worth the 10 points. So his original question, what armies do you enjoy playing the most and why? And when building those armies, what is most important to you? Effectiveness, strengths, or fun and theme? So for me, I've answered this, I think, every pod, but it's fine. It's Mordor, just because it's what I'm playing at the moment a lot, and I'm having fun adding some units in that I've never used before, for various reasons. So obviously I played the Blackgate Legion because it's fun and themey, but it's also very good and effective up to a certain points. I think up to 500 points, it's very, very strong. So it's a combination of everything. I also really enjoyed using the Mouth of Sauron with Black Numenorians and a Ringwraith, again, because it's pretty good fun and it's also somewhat competitive. 9 points for Fight 4, Defense 6, Terror, in my opinion, is very good. I mean, they're not prominent across the most competitive events, but I think they are very good. I guess it depends again on what I want my army to do. So if I'm going to an event just to have fun, I'll take something like I've used Thorin's Company at events. I used Radagast, Eagles, and Beorn at events before. I've used Gondor for like 2 years just because I like Gondor, or Minas Tirith now. Sorry.
Yeah.
A combination of both, mate. To be honest, but if I was specifically designing an army, it's normally because I think the models are quite cool, and especially with my current project, it's because you don't see it very much. Obviously, Dan knows what it is, but we're not going to divulge because we've not hit a like target yet. But if you want to hit the like button and smash the crap out of it, maybe next week. What about you, mate?
Yeah, I think we've answered something similar, but I mean, predominantly, I'm probably a Gondor player.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fair to say. So that's a mixture of Minas Tirith and Fiefdoms.
Certainly have used them a lot recently, haven't you?
Yeah, I think a lot of that's mainly because they're more viable now.
Yeah, definitely a lot better now.
Yeah, and in the old option, to be honest, in the old option, I'd usually take them anyway and be battered.
Yeah, I'd like to clarify. I played Gondor before they were good. Also, I haven't actually played them since they've been good, but
before they were cool. Yeah,
before they were cool. Yeah,
yeah, I like their early stuff, their early albums for the real music.
yeah.
And
The OG music. Yeah,
yeah, and yeah, pro bozzer. So I mean, yeah, I'm just mainly themey armies. I probably say I play good rather than just Gondor, and I think it's mainly because they're themey. There's quite a lot of fun to play in them.
I think what the new edition of the game, and we'll call it the new edition forever now, probably. What the new edition of the game has done, again with the ally matrix, giving you those army bonuses for being a green, being wholly one faction or having a historical ally. It really has enabled you to take a fluffy army and it not be awful.
Yeah.
As I say, what you would used to see is, I mean, I was horrendous for it when I was going to GBHL events to compete, is I would have a Goblin Town predominant so many points because they're cheap and I have a lot of them. And then I'd have a Shadow Lord and a Fell Beast because, again, Ring Race were a lot better. And then I could have a Moria Shaman because the keywords didn't matter. There wasn't keywords, so you could still have Fury for your goblins. And then, I could have a Dweller or a Cave Troll or whatever I wanted, really. And have a proper, Misty Mountains mashup is what I like to call it. Because technically, fluff behind the cheese, they are all from the Misty Mountains. It's not completely they would probably have been aware of each other to some degree.
Yeah.
But it was cheesy as anything. It was horrendous. But now with the ally matrix and the army bonuses, a lot of people find that it is more beneficial. I think the Mordor army bonus is great if you really hoard out a Mordor army. The reroll ones to wound and +1 courage if you have more models. It's really good. So,
I think, I mean, for me, there's lots of armies that I do enjoy playing. I've got a few of them that I need to play more. I'm just enjoying Gondor, as I say, because it's got a sort of new lease of life, and you can take Aragon King, and it'd be fine. You can take Gandalf the White, and
Gandalf the White now is on a horse is an awesome model. Strength 5, 3 attacks.
On the charge, yeah.
On the charge, 3 attacks, 2 attacks base. He can still cast his spells, and he's good at casting spells.
I mean, that's the main bit. I mean, you look at the,
he's expensive though. That's not.
Well,
LSR and Gandalf are both extremely expensive.
It's one or the other under 1,000 points.
If you're playing 1,000, you could arguably take both, but that is half your army nearly.
Yeah. You'd have to then use cheap troops to sort of buff it.
Just chaff, yeah. Minister of chaff.
But I mean, for me, it's you want a themey army. Well, I tend to like a themey army, and then try and then work in its strengths, or try and work out from a sort of themey base.
Yeah.
Rather than, I mean, other players do other things, and it's fine. Other players do look for what an army can do. As I've said before, I try and have a number of threats.
Yep, threats was a good one. A few people messaged me about that afterwards and said it was an interesting talking point.
Yeah, just to have things that other players have to manage or have to deal with that will hurt their army if they don't deal with them. Like I played a friendly game the other day against my brother, and he brought out trolls for the first time. Nice. He's not really used them, but
Wilbur and Tom.
No, the Troll Chieftain and just a Mordor Troll.
Nice. Alongside,
who was it? There was another. I think it was like Gorbag or someone. But Solid. It was just having those 3 threats. I had Denethor, Faramir, and Imrahil, and the fact that I was having to strike, and use up those might points with those heroes, I mean, it's made it harder to manage because though you're already allocating might points to strike in those combats. Yeah. So I mean, there's lots of ways to do it. It's just making life more difficult for your your opponent. So, but I mean, if you can do it with a themey list, then do it. I mean, we were talking about the new Mummock list, weren't we?
Dan's. I don't know. Dan's got a few ideas in the pipeline, and one of them I was nearly threw up at. It's minging, but
but it's very themey, and it's
it's incredibly themey. But you look at it and go, wow, you get all that for that amount of points. That's disgusting.
You do. But I mean, I think that's just the way that you should approach lists now in the current meta, is because take what you want, take what you think would be fun, take what you think would be themey.
I also think the heroic actions of your heroes play a part in your list building.
Yeah,
because you need a lot of armies. I think now need a march because a lot of tournaments, events will do random scenarios. So you need march for maneuverability. You need strike because there's a prevalence of big heroes that we've been discussing.
Yeah.
You need. Well, you might need well, March and Strike are probably the two big ones for me. But if you can get a couple of models with both, then winning. But
I'd say, sorry, I'll carry
go
on.
on. No, go
I'm
on.
going to say maybe accuracy now.
Again, it depends what you're playing because I don't tend to take a lot of archers or any archers sometimes. But
I think just as a, I mean, I think it's still one that maybe works maybe half the time.
yeah,
It will still, if you can, get the hero off the horse.
yeah, no, definitely.
The big hero, or warg, or whatever it is.
The mount.
The mount. I mean, it really limits the big point heroes.
Especially like Dane and Thranduil and, well, anyone really, but
Boromir.
Dane on the rocket sausage is horrible. So
yeah, no, I love the rocket sausage. It's great.
oh, I love it. I think it's awesome and it's a really nice model, but it's horrible to play against. If you can't deal with it, it's minging. So again, I hope that's answered your question, Tom. Let us know in the comments if you need more, and I'll answer it. That's not a problem. Alex has asked, where do I find the podcasts? So I linked him the playlist, and hopefully he's watching through them.
Yeah.
Kieran has asked again, how do you deal with an enemy who has lots of magic? Seems to just shut down big heroes from turn 2 after he's forced your will points early on. I know why he's asked this question, because his game 3, Kieran's good army was Elendil with a full warband of 18 because he's a legend.
Yeah.
I think it was 12 with shield and spear and 6 bows, and then he had Gil-galad. They were both mounted with shields. Gil-galad again with 12 spear, 6 bow, and they all had the Kingsguard upgrade. And the reason for doing that is because he had the points left over, and he didn't have any more space in his warbands because they both had their full allocation.
Yeah.
So that's 38 models. It's 800 points. And what he played in the finale was the Witch King on Fellbeast, Shadow Lord on horse, and the Dark Marshal on horse.
Right.
Turn 1, he lost Elendil, his mistake. I told him about it afterwards. He went, yeah, you're right. And then turn 2, he had 3 wraiths just keep shutting down Gil-galad until he ran out of will, and then eventually died as well. He did win that game because the fight 6 elves just helped him win the fights, and then strength 4 Numenorians. It's like little tag teams appeared across the board, and but how I would have dealt with it, personally, I think Kieran got very unlucky in the first turn anyway, because I watched the game, well, for the most part. The way to deal with it, I suppose, if you can get to the models who are casting the spells, then heroic move, charge them, and they obviously can't cast. If you don't have a way of dealing with them that way, you had a lot of bows, so you could have shot them. Again, the Shadow Lord was there, so shooting wasn't really an option. But I guess it's picking. It's all about resource management. So it's picking how many will you want to try and resist a normal transfix with, and then deciding if you're actually in a major threat by letting it go off, because obviously normal transfix, it only stops you from making attacks. So you'll still be probably higher fight. You can't strike, obviously, but I think it's just resource management. Do I spend 1 will or 2 will? I mean, 2 heroes against 3 ring race, I don't think you ever actually win that will off, ever, unless you roll 6s to resist everything, because obviously you would keep getting your will points back. But just try and pick and choose where you spend your will. Maybe use a might point to pass the resist roll. It's just resource management and trying to cut down the effectiveness of the wraiths by charging them first, I guess.
Yeah, I think it sounds like, I mean, you very rarely come up against a list with 3 wraiths. I would
Or
say
three any casters is.
3 any casters is hard. I always think 2 casters is tough.
I mean, obviously, you can have that the prevalent Arwyn, um, Radagast, and Elrond is a list at the moment.
Yeah,
But again, it's
and then
very rare.
yeah, and can you have Lindir in that list as well? So he gives Elrond the
I mean, I
free
think it,
will. The
I think
unlimited
it would
will to
depend
Elrond.
on the points, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know exactly what happened with Elendil, but with his unbending resolve, I'd be surprised he'd be shut down so quickly.
Well, it was just what happened basically. He
Yeah,
passed the. He actually didn't die because he failed to resist. He did resist it, but then he struck up and only got a 1. Witch King went higher. He was on a Fell Beast.
right.
So he's automatically dismounted because
Yeah,
gets knocked prone, and then he went for the normal strike, so he had 8 dice to get 5s. I think he got 4 5s and killed him.
oh,
It's only 3 wounds, 1 fate. So
yeah. So that's fair enough.
it was just unlucky that first turn. I was like, oh my god, I've never seen a worse like massive hero. I mean, he was effectively playing 400 points down from like turn 2 onwards.
Yeah,
So
it's pretty horrific. I mean, I'd say resolve at the right time. You just have to assume perhaps that. I mean, I've done it with Aragon
it did against me.
against the with the
I had
Return of the King against
I
your
had the Shadow Lord and the Mouth.
yeah, and so I could call a 3 heroic resolve each turn. If it was,
And it did make me not do spells or it made me not do spells against the stuff within that bubble because I just thought it's not worth the risk necessarily.
yeah, it's a bit. I think
It's a good deterrent anyway.
yeah. I think a lot of Magic now. I think that's part of the issue is making it. Again, you've gone on about risk and reward, and I think that's exactly the way to look at it. Whether or not there are some times where you're fine with your hero not being involved
Mm.
or not being, like if they try to immobilize you, for instance,
Yeah.
or transfix. Like I think sometimes where you should be happy to just, you'll go this turn I won't resist. That's fine.
Yeah.
But next turn when I need my hero to be there, the crux of the matter, they can then, they'll have the will there to action it.
Yeah.
I guess so. Again, I think just coming up against 3 spellcasters is a bit unlucky.
I mean,
But
it's certainly not impossible, especially if you're playing a Mordor list, because there's a couple of cheaper. You can have a cheap ring wraith with the mouth, and then a big ring wraith, but
I suppose,
it's just not commonly seen. So
no, I suppose you can get in an Angmar list as well with one of the Angmar wraiths, Witch King, Tainted, or
I mean, the Angmar list is horrendous for cheap
yeah,
casters. You got 50-point Barrow-wights or whatever they are, 60-point Barrow-wights.
yeah. I mean, there's certain armies are good against it, like Wood Elves. Their army bonus is resistant to
and
magic.
and hobbits.
Hobbits, yeah, they're all resistant to magic. I mean, there's certain armies where it's not going to bother you as much.
I mean, my suggestion to Kieran was perhaps to include um, Armored Glorfindel on horse instead of Gil-galad. He does lose the Kingsguard bonus, but he does get another model with essentially Fortify Spirit
Yeah,
or resistant to magic. Sorry. So
no, he does have unbending resolve, isn't it? So it is the fortify spirit rule.
yeah, so then he'd have both of his heroes who wouldn't necessarily have to spend. Is it in addition to, or is it you can just roll 2 dice, can't you now?
I think you get 2 additional dice each time.
But do you have to spend 1, or can you just roll 2?
You can just roll the 2.
Yeah, so like essentially you get 2 free will to resist every turn.
Yeah.
So that was my suggestion to you on the day, and I don't know how that would affect your army composition, but if you're thinking of just running 2 heroes, that's potentially what I would do. Thomas Smith has asked, What was the last army you saw on a board that made you wow or laugh, and why?
You can go first on this one.
So I've got one for both, actually.
Okay.
Now, wow could be because it's really good or really bad or looks really nice or, several reasons, but they are good reasons. They're not bad reasons. I think the one that made me go, actually, I've got to think of a good example now.
I think the one I talked to you about earlier about the Reaver list was one where I went definitely.
Yeah.
I went wow, and it was not for good reasons.
No, that was it's grim. It is grim.
It is grim. I think ones that have made me laugh. I think I played a weird fellowship list. It was an alternate fellowship list at Seven Stones.
Okay.
Where someone had Bill the Pony.
Oh no! Oh, that was Larry. I'm pretty
It was
sure.
Larry, yeah, Larry Miller, who is. If you ever get to play him in any tournament, he always brings just utter fluff.
It's fun though.
Oh no, that's it. It's complete fluff, like so much fun, themey. Like you'd never choose it in a million years.
No.
And I think that very much made me. I was just chuckling away to him because it come clearly. It was a big contender for the wooden spoon.
Oh yeah.
Big contender for the wooden spoon, and and a top guy.
Yeah. I think the one that made me laugh was Jason's. I think he took it the other weekend where he had. I think it was Sauron. No, was it Sauron? Oh, I can't remember. It was like the Balrog with Vrasku and something else for the points, just because it couldn't then be broken, but he didn't care about the army bonus. It was minging. And the one that made me laugh, I don't know really. I don't know. I haven't got an answer, to be honest. Laugh. I don't think I ever sat across a table and laughed at an army as it's. Actually, tell a lie. I played a Goblin Town list where the Goblin King had been made to look like a court jester. So he had the big bobble hat, and that was pretty funny. Like someone had sculpted the hat where it's like I can't think of the word, like a jester hat. If you know what a jester hat looks like, you know what I'm talking about. Right, last two. Tom Maynard has asked, how important is it to have heroic march in your army, especially if you have a few or limited availability to cavalry? Would you drop a big hero, say Elendil, for two smaller ones, say hypothetically a Isildur and a captain in an army? Now the list he left is Elrond Master Rivendell Heavy Armor Horse, 5 High Elf Warriors with Spears and Shields, 1 Rivendell Knight with Shield, Lindir of Rivendell, 5 High Elf Warriors with Shields, 4 High Elf Warriors with Spears and Bows, 1 High Elf Warrior with Spear, Bow and Banner, 1 Rivendell Knight with Shield, Isildur, Shield Horse, the One Ring, 4 Warriors of Numenor with Shield and Spear, a Captain of Numenor with 5 Warriors of Numenor with Shield and Spear, and 5 Warriors of Numenor with Spear and Bow.
It's a good list.
So his original question actually is the opposite of his, because I guess if you could swap the captain and Isildur and put all the Numenorians in with Elendil for the same points. I think that's what he's asking.
Yeah.
Because he has only got 1, 2, 3, potentially 4 mounted models. So is it worth having March with the captain, or is it, is Elendil in there with the limited cavalry? He would still have 4 mounted models. Is that enough, essentially? Bearing in mind, one's Elrond and one would be Elendil, potentially.
I'm just checking because I'm just seeing what Lindir brings, because he boosts Elrond, but I don't think he gives the March option. No, he doesn't have any specific
heroics.
No.
See, I think with those 2 heroes and the 2 Rivendell Knights, assuming you can keep them on horses, I mean, that is the big issue. Because Elendil, if you were to swap Isildur and the captain for Elendil on a horse potentially covers 20 inches in a turn anyway.
Yeah, with this free heroic combat.
Charges, kills, moves on. You've covered 20 inches of the board.
Yeah.
I think it depends on, for me, it always depends on what the rules pack is for the event. If it's random scenarios, then I would go with the list you have because you might need the march with your foot mounted dudes. If it's like a more killy based event, so no recon, no hold ground, no storm the camp, no seize the prize potentially, you could probably get away without having march. I think it just depends on the rules pack and what you want your army to do. I mean, that list is pretty horrendous. Like Elrond's really good, Lindir makes him better. Isildur with the ring is really good, and a Númenórean captain is a solid profile. I mean, yeah, it's only 2 attacks, but still fight 5, strength 4 or 5, so very decent in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think of alternates at the moment, and nothing off the top of my head because of what you want the list to do. So you obviously want Elrond to have, more casting power. The only problem with that is, I mean, you're keeping him sort of linked to Lindir.
I don't know if Lindir's on a horse or not. He hasn't given him. He doesn't say it, or does
No,
he come on a horse?
he doesn't come on a horse, so I assume he's on foot.
I mean, that's an interesting. I'd immediately potentially drop something and give Lindir a horse because
Yeah, because you
you
don't
want
want
him.
Elrond. You don't want Elrond tethered to Lindir on foot.
Yeah,
So yeah, potentially
I mean,
do that.
it wasn't a list based critique, but I'm just giving you a critique anyway.
Yeah, I mean that'd work. Or I'm trying to think whether or not you could get an elf captain in, because I think I'd always take an elf captain over a Numenor captain if possible.
But then, oh yeah, because how is Isildur uh, Valor?
He's a valley, yeah.
So you could get rid of the. I don't know what the points of. What's the points difference between a Númenórean captain with a shield and a elf captain with a shield?
So captain of Numenor with assuming is he just shield?
Just says shield, but I think he
So
has heavy armor base,
heavy
doesn't he?
No, he doesn't. So he's 60 points with armor, heavy armor, and shield.
Okay,
And then
assuming that's how he's kitted out.
I assume so. And then was it high elf captain, 75 points high elf captain, but they come with heavy armor.
So he's got to make up 15 points.
15 points.
It's difficult, especially if he wants to give Lindir a horse as well, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, Isildur and a captain are cheaper.
How many points is Lindir?
Bear with me. I'm flicking through book.
Yeah, I know. I'm making you work. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's the only reason you invite me on. 65 points, but he doesn't. That's without heavy armor and horse.
I mean, if you don't necessarily want to give him a horse or heavy armor, I'd potentially swap him for the captain. But because, as you say, you don't want to have Elrond tethered to a move 6 model.
No, I mean, I was thinking really, if you just want what Linda has given you,
Just take Arwen.
Yeah, I was going to say just take Arwen on Asphalloth or on a regular horse.
She's like 70 points, and then you get an extra couple of Nature's Wraths anyway.
Yeah, Wrath of Brunin, yeah.
Oh yeah, well you know what I mean.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'd potentially take Arwen over Lindir, but
yeah.
I think she's got a better fight value, just can't kill as much.
She's there as more of a support. I mean, they're both support characters, really, but the fact that she'd be on Asphalloth is really handy as well.
Yeah, and she can channel Wrath of Brunin, and
yeah,
I'd say take Arwen over Lindir, which isn't answering the question whatsoever, Tom. So
the March related question, depending on the scenarios, and
I'd say take it. I'd say you really need it.
But he has a captain in there anyway, so
yeah.
The list you've got is 39 or 35 models, 2 solid heroes, 2 good support heroes. I think it's pretty decent.
Yeah, it's a good list.
So last question. Uh, Jack's asked, how easy is it to kill? Only joking. I think this is referring to something that happened earlier.
Yeah.
He put, from looking at our games today, do you think that Hurl and or Magic will slowly become as prevalent or close to as they were in the old edition once people get to grips with the both? Oh, I'm combining words again. With the best slash most effective way to use them with the changes. He has got a second part to the question, but we'll do that afterwards.
Right. Shall I tackle this one? Because he's
I
referred
mean,
to.
you can certainly refer to your games, and then
Yeah.
I can give you my insight of my feelings on Magic at the moment. So,
The first part, Jack jokingly refers to how easy is it to kill Aragon. So myself and Jack have just come off the back of playing a couple of games today, and Jack managed to one turn LSR, King of Gondor,
so
with
unlucky.
with all he was missing was one might point. So it was a blast by Saruman, even though I had called Resolve as well.
Oh
So
no way!
called Resolve. I think I rolled a 1 for the Knight of Gondor to resist. I think he only cast it on a 4 from memory. Rolled a 1, it knocked Aragon off horse. And then he promptly swamped him with Ugluk and I think a Berserker and maybe a regular guy, and then a couple of supports.
Oh.
And then we both struck. I struck higher, but then promptly rolled triple 1 with Aragon. Banned it to a 2.
Oh,
Lost the combat. And then Aragon on the floor. I think Ugluk only caused maybe 1 wound, 1 or 2.
right.
But the Berserker who had two-handed fainted rolled quadruple 5, quad 5 from the Berserker's rolls. So I then rolled all 3 of Aragon's fate, passing 2 and failing 1 on a 1, which only having 2 might left. After the No, that was it. It was the resolve early that turn with his free 1,
Yeah,
and then the
one
strike.
to strike.
Yeah, so it was at the start of the turn. Aragon was fresh, and
Oh,
then he was a dead king within. I think this was turn 3. So that's how easy it is to kill Aragon.
rough.
So if people were talking about the prevalence of magic, I can confirm it is still alive and well.
I still think it's very good. You should have to
Yeah,
be a bit more. You have to be a bit more aware of where you want to cast your spells in the first place, and they're not as good, but they're still annoying. Like, you know, mention him again. Malthus Sauron, 3+ to cast Transfix. Every turn, 1 dice. If you get it, happy days. If you don't, oh well. You keep him away from their heroes. You charge him into troops. I love him. He's great,
happy that.
but it's not as good as it was before, where you transfix a hero and then they're like pretty much dead. It's not as good as it used to be. Um, but I think it certainly has a place within um, most armies. Magic. I think if you look at all the top table armies, they have a ring wraith or a caster of spells. So Radagast is very good at the moment, as is Elrond, and the combination of both is minging. But again, it's very prevalent at the moment because it is still very good. They're different spells to what we used to see a lot of,
Yeah.
but Magic in the game, I think, still has a very solid pillar base of list building. I always try and have at least one caster. Lower points, it's probably just the mouth. Higher points, I always have a wraith and maybe the mouth. But um, with regards to Hurl for me is a lot more situational now because you have to be in the perfect line to get what you want from the Hurl, I guess. Or if the model behind has a horse, then you might just want to hurl him backwards to get a model off of the horse. Again, I think it's situational. Brutal power attacks offer you something there's a lot of brutal power attacks that are very good. Like Rend is very good still. Barge is also very useful for clearing an objective. Obviously, Hurl is still good. It's just a bit more situational. I think if you can have a Fell Beast, because I've noticed a few Fell Beasts creeping back in, especially with the Witch King on Fell Beast being in the starter set.
Yeah.
If you can get him in a decent spot and Hurl, he's at the end of a line and you hurl down the line, I think it's still very good.
I would say earlier we played against Jack's Eagle list,
Mm-hmm.
and it's an army that I've played as well in the current edition.
Yeah.
I would say flying monsters and monsters that move quickly. So I'm thinking specifically here of dwellers and ogres.
Yeah, they move
So
8, don't they?
yeah, monsters where you've got that extra bit of movement that
Yeah.
might perhaps take your opponent by surprise.
Yep.
Where you can perhaps get that angle for the hurl. I think it's still incredibly viable.
Yep.
And I think monsters in general are more viable, but again with magic, it's using them at the right time. They're not a sort of Swiss Army knife like magic. So magic used to be. Magic used to be whatever you wanted to do. You can dominate the board with magic.
But it used to be every list, no matter what, you'd always try and get a caster in.
Yeah, and I think now, despite what Kieran was saying, what happened to Kieran earlier, I wouldn't say magic's insurmountable. It's a lot of points, and if your casting is not on it, it can be quite a big waste of points.
Well, that's for me why I take the mouth over a budget ring wraith.
Yeah,
because
someone who does both. He does
generally a budget ring wraith for me. I'm talking about 80 points. I think you get 2 might, 1 extra will, 2 fate. I think that's about 80 points. In fact, 55, 60. Yeah, it's 80 points. Whereas the mouth on his armored horse is 75. Because if I really want to get a spell off, I would probably use more than 1 will. With the wraith, I'd probably use 2. Whereas with the mouth, I'll only ever use 1 and try and get it off rather than, if I really need to get a spell off, I'll use 2. But 9 times out of 10, I'll only use 1 and I'll just cast Transfix. But yeah, I think because he's not like a ring wraith where I spend my 4 will points and he disappears. He still is fight 5, 2 attacks, 3 on the charge. Whereas obviously a ring wraith, once you spend their will, or they get charged when you've got 1 or 2 left, then you really have to be careful with what you do with them. So
yeah, I think that's probably why Gandalf the White's so good in the current edition as well, is because he does have that captain's role that you can play like the Mouth of Sauron, but with a little bit more. But then that's reflected in the points.
Well, I mean, yeah, one is 3 times the cost of the other.
Yeah. Very true.
But yeah, I think that's my opinion on the first part of Jack's question. The second part of his question: what's the thing / type of army you do not like seeing across the table from you, and why? Dwarves, still hate them. Hard to kill. Especially Iron Hills Dwarf. I just think they're really, really good. I used to play them and I don't like them. I think they're extremely forgiving if you're a less experienced player, or if you're I don't want to put people down that play Iron Hills, because I think they're a very difficult army to use at the same time, but because they're so well rounded, if you make a mistake, chances are it's not going to lose you the game straight away, because they are defense 7 or 8. They are all fight 4, strength 4. The captains are very good. The champions of Erebor, if you were to go that way, are very good. Dane is very good. You've got the Ballista, which is extremely good. I know it has had a little bit of a nerf with the minimum range, but it's still very good. And the Chariot is also still very good. So for me, it's always dwarfs, any flavour. They just annoy me because I can't kill them. So
I think maybe just Horde armies for me, and I will come and qualify that, because I think There are some Horde armies are fine, like Goblin Town, where it's got very specific weaknesses.
Yeah.
Whereas I think you have Horde armies like we've spoken about Lake Town that can do everything. But also, I'd say perhaps Moria, where you've got large armies that can do. You know, you have a lot of buffs for them. The
I think
buffs.
Moria are great now.
I think Moria are a very good army. I don't think CJ or Mind are saying that's one of the reasons he enjoys taking them.
Oh, they're very good. They have a lot of.
Yeah,
They are a Swiss Army knife. You
yeah.
have numbers. You you struggle with heroes, but because you have bat swarms uh or
You've
you have
got
bat swarms, or
you've got monsters as well if you need to take them,
you've
or
got shatter if you want to. Oh, that's a nice sword. Not anymore.
you've got shatter, you've got fury as well, which I think still, even though it's not the save, it's the sort of auto courage
Well,
path.
that's all I used Fury for in the
Yeah,
previous rules. But again, as you say, you've got the Fury to keep your models on the board or in the game.
or charging
Well,
what you want.
or to charge Terror, because Terror is a big thing at the moment with Aura of Dismay and Army of the Dead.
Yeah,
Um, you've got monsters, you've got magic, you've got numbers, you've got all the heroics you need with across the heroes that are in the list. Um, can they still take like dragons and things? I assume.
yeah, the can, yeah.
Yeah, so like you've literally got they are a really solid do everything faction in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um,
It's it's not that I don't like horde lists per se. This is the part I wanted to qualify. It's just I think the one bar and Goblin Town. I think a lot of them have got
Lake
buffs.
Town.
I think Lake Town and well Lake Town more than Moria, but again Moria have very very good profiles in their lists
Yeah, I do
that do a lot for them. But
definitely.
my other issue with it is the fact that a lot of time is often wasted in movement
Mm.
when it comes to a horde army, and I don't think people necessarily take that into account, or perhaps maybe they do, but I think you'll find it, especially if you come up against a Hobbit list, for instance, and you come up against sort of 70 models,
Yeah,
you're going to spend 20 minutes doing movement a turn
yeah,
without getting to combats, and I just think after a while it's not very fun to play,
mm.
especially if it's say objectives based and you're trying to, perhaps you've not gotten the best deployment or they've got more favourable deployment. You're then spending the rest of your game, um,
React.
let's say, yeah, reacting and trying to fight through a load of models and trying to get as much in per turn, and a lot of time is being eked out by the horde armies.
The other issue is as well is like you can kill a lot, but you won't break them, and you won't get to anything that's significant VP wise.
Yeah,
Because if someone 800 points Moria, you looking at probably 50 up models, depending on the composition of the list, but it's at least 50 goblins with some big stuff.
yeah,
And it's like, okay, well, I'll put my heroes behind the 50 goblins, and you have to kill 20 odd of them. It's just
yeah.
difficult to do.
That's it. And by that point, you've lost. They'll have about I don't know 6 or 7 heroes maybe.
Yeah.
If it's a Moria list, you'll have what, a shaman, you'll have Groblog,
Durbers, Groblog,
Durbers,
Captain, maybe.
yeah. The same can be said in perhaps a Lake Town list. You'll have Gandalf will hide half the army from shooting,
Yeah.
and then you'll get to the other half, and then you'll have you know a load of Lake Town to cut through, and then when you do, you'll have Bard and his family of 3 heroic combats.
Oh, Bard with his kids is horrendously good.
Yeah, they're very good armies, and I've got nothing against them. It's just in tournament play specifically, they still have quite a large
A lot of
advantage.
tournaments have capped
models.
model count, haven't they? Like to 70, I think it is.
But even then, I mean, I play at large points, and the largest amount of models I played is 40.
I mean, me and you sent each other lists the other day. I think it was 700 points,
Yeah,
and I was like, "Oh, my list is." If I say the amount, people might figure it out. But my list was X amount of models. It was
yeah,
over. It was over 40, which doesn't rule out. A lot of lists can be over 40, and I
yeah,
was like, "Right, what am I going to do with all these models? Normally, I have about 35, 36, and that's my list, you know." And we were both discussing the fact that generally our lists are around similar model size,
yeah,
and anything else is just like, right, I've got a horde, and it's not really a horde. A horde is 60 plus models, but for us, it's like that's a lot of models, man. I can't be bothered to
yeah,
move them all. But I mean, I guess the thing is, you could take movement trays if you wanted to speed up a bit.
yeah. But I mean, people who take horde armies to tournaments won't.
No, true,
They
but
won't,
yeah, true, true.
and I think that's the only thing that bothers me is when you come up against as I say, a horde army. Perhaps you've not had the best deployment, or they've had slightly more favourable deployment,
Yeah.
and then the objectives in the main suit a horde army.
A lot of the scenarios favour a horde army, in my opinion. Sorry, I was
Yeah.
half yawning, half talking there.
Yeah, I mean that's my real gripe about it. I mean, as I say, things like Goblin Tower I don't mind because they're expecting high numbers, high casualties,
I mean, yeah,
and it's.
you should carve through goblins.
I mean, you'd hope so, but then you've got Moria where you've got slightly armored goblins.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you could argue that you could have a goblin town list of goblin mercenaries, and they're not as awful,
No, it's true.
but they're
It's
still
true.
cheap.
Yeah, I forget they're there sometimes. But yes, no, you're right. And then they're not, um, you know, I guess as themey as pure Goblin Town, but yes.
Yeah. But anyway, I think that's answered Jack's question from both of us, and that is the last question. I'm just going to double check that very quickly if I missed any. Duh, 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 duh. Sorry. No, that is the last question. So I'm going to do the YouTube spiely bit. Right, we're going to... Let's go. Let's do... Okay, so again, if you want to leave questions for the next Q&A, I'm not going to do a post on Facebook. What I may do on Facebook is link the previous... or link this video that you're watching, or listening to, rather, and say leave your questions on the video. But if you leave questions on that post, they're not going to get answered. We want the questions on the current episode of the podcast you are listening to, because then it helps the algorithm. Talking about the algorithm again, guys. I'm sorry. So comment below your questions for the next episode of the pod. Comment below your answers for CJ's quiz question, which we're going to do every episode, whether that's weekly or bi-weekly. Currently going for weekly because I'm at least getting one day off in the week with Dan while he's still at home hopping around. Obviously, when he returns to work, that may not happen, and it may turn into a bi-weekly thing when me and Jack can actually arrange a day to record. So comment questions, comment answers for CJ's question. What else, Dan? Leave a like.
Like,
Roughly,
share, subscribe.
roughly, we're getting. I don't know how many people watch a bit and then come back to it later and rewatch it again. But even so, I think there's at least 20 people probably actively watching this, and we're not getting half of that in the likes. So let's just go for 10. There's no reward this time. Just want 10. I want them. So just like it. It's 10. All right? 10. 10. All right?
10.
So answers to questions, comment. Questions for next time, comment. Like it, because Josh said so. And if you feel like there's people who would enjoy listening to myself and Jack or whoever ramble on for, I mean, even this has gone on for an hour and 20 minutes and it was supposed to be a quick episode, feel free to share it. Obviously, it goes up on the GBHL Facebook page and our own Facebook page anyway. But, you know, And again, actually, 20% of people who do listen to the podcast via YouTube, so you watch the podcast even though there's nothing to watch, aren't subscribed. So please subscribe. So comment, like, share, subscribe. And big thank you again to Dan for being my guest again this week. I think that's is that 3 in a row or 4 in a row?
I don't even know. I think it's 3 in a row.
He's our first, yes, because last week you were our first double guest, and now you're our first triple guest. So,
First triple guest.
unlike Soccer AM, we don't give you a football, but
No.
I do appreciate you coming on and helping me out again. So, big thank you to Dan again. Anything you want to end with, mate?
Not a problem. I'm glad you keep asking. It gives me something to do during the week. And hopefully, for those of you who are probably bored of me by now, I will be going back to work at some point. So there will be room on the. I was going to say on the sofa, but we're not really on a. We're on a sort of hypothetical sofa.
Katie did suggest to me actually filming an episode like live almost, and then having it as an actual podcast. But I think due to work schedules, I don't know if that will ever happen. Maybe if we get to a milestone episode like 50 or something, me and Jack and whoever, we can all sit down and have a good chat for ages. But currently, I think this format is how it's going to remain. Also, actually, I'm rambling. Sorry, it's happening again. Comment again. So more comments. What it is you like about the podcast, what you want us to keep, and what you're not so fussed about, just so that it doesn't get stale. I know we're only 7 episodes in, and you're probably not bored of it yet, or I hope you're not, because I'm enjoying filming them, and actually, just feels like I'm having a chat with a mate every week, which is nice. But yeah, so comment what you want, what you would like to see, what you currently like, what you would like less of, and it just gives me and Jack a bit of food for thought. Oh, and of course, topics, because me and Jack can only think of so much. We have one for next time, and potentially one for the time after, because we haven't actually got an EAHC event till September now, I believe. So we're not going to discuss our own events for a long time. I am going to get James Wilson on, or we are, to discuss our East Anglia Hobbit Community GBHO event, which is happening in October. I'm not going to give anything else away because it's James's event and he wants to come on and do a preview for it. So something else to look forward to. So cap it off. I'm going to be finished in the next 30 seconds, I promise. Like the video first. Share it if you want to. Comment questions that you want us to answer next episode. Comment answers to CJ's question from this episode. Leave a comment of the things you like, dislike, want to see, and don't want to see on the pod. And that's it, I believe. That's it. I'm going. Dan, thank you again. Guys, thank you for listening. And I'll speak to you all next week, hopefully.
Right.